with Chris Bilo, our Parks and Recreation Commissioner, is going to present on, and I'll let you describe it, because the acronym PROSAR, I butcher it every time, but you have a presentation on the committee recommendations of restructure. So Chris, I'll hand you the top.
Thank you. Yeah, so PROSAR. PROSAR is currently, as you are aware, the advisory board to the Parks and Rec Department. PROSAR stands for Parks, Recreation, Open Space, Athletic Review. So it's sort of a mouthful. And what I'm going to do tonight is kind of just go over a few things that I'm suggesting from a restructure standpoint. And I'll go through this as I go through the slides. Something that I've been debating and kind of going over for about the last year is the information that's shared during these bi-monthly, every other month meeting has not been as useful and engaging as I think we probably need it to be in the department. And that's not to say that it's on the committee members' responsibility or even mine. It's sort of a shared responsibility over how this has morphed over the time. And I'll start by kind of going over what I'm going to go over this evening, so the agenda topics. I'll give you a quick overview of what PROSAR is, sort of how it was started, and then the recommendation moving forward on how we take that PROSAR structure and, again, get the most out of the input from our residents that serve or participate on those committees. Those three being recreation programs, our parks, and then 55 plus programming or senior programming. Those are the three key areas, obviously, of our department. And then kind of going into a little bit of the creation and the structure of what those three components are all about. So to go backwards a little bit, PROSAR, originally when that was originally designed, the original intent, not as effective, and one of the reasons is a lot of the information that PROSAR initially kind of dealt with, we no longer deal with. And one of the examples that I put on there is field usage. There is a dedicated group that kind of goes over field uses, especially through Youth Sports Council. There's a lot of decisions that are made and discussed within that organization. And then obviously on our end, our field usage is really determined by availability. If we have it available and groups are able to utilize the field space that we have, we make that available. So that's just one side of it. Also, again, in regards to the athletic review portion of PROSAR, the field house. We've actually gotten to the point where a lot of our activities now, we hold those activities in-house. Good example is this year, we took the North Coast program, which used to be held at the field house at Thomas, moved that program back over to the rec center. So all of the games and activities actually took place in New Orleans. So we were able to do that. So again, not as much need for this group to kind of focus on that athletic review piece. Obviously, we're still looking for the community input, which is the intent of what PROSAR or an advisory board is. So we're not looking to go away from that portion of how PROSAR was structured. We're just looking for more specific feedback in those three core areas. So recommendation that I've shared with both the supervisor and then also our department liaison, Jennifer, is that what we'd like to do is have three of the three focus groups. Each one would be sort of chaired or led by department staff. Recreation program events, pretty self-explanatory. Focus on current and future programs, events offered through the department, providing suggestions and input on new programming, be led by our recreation director, Katie Fuller. 55 plus programming, provide focused senior programming, provide opportunities for changing senior program needs. Obviously, that's a big one as we start to see sort of the needs and the interests of our 55 plus participants changing over time. And that would be, again, led by department staff, Daphne Gio. And then parks and open space, provide a focus on current parks, properties, including the features and amenities within, provide input on current town and land and future opportunities as arise. So again, to go back to the PROSAR structure, as open space or as land was being acquired, PROSAR would provide some input on potential use of those properties. That would stay the same. We would just have it, that information would be shared by the park side of these focus groups. And again, that would be headed up by our parks director, Glenn Morrell. So those are the three groups that I'm suggesting we kind of go to. And now I'll get into real quickly the creation and the structure of what those three groups will look like. So each group would ideally have 4 to 5 residents. Does not need to be a specific set amount, but for just what I'll say is good group dynamics as well as conversation. 4 to 5 residents participate quarterly meetings or as needed. So if something may come up, again, I'll go back to that park example. Piece of property comes up and town board wants to have some input from the park focus group. They may need to meet additionally on top of those 4 times a year. And then they'll meet to discuss obviously items that relate directly to their area. The rec side, as we've had some discussions internally, we would focus those time frames of those meetings will be around when the seasonal brochures get being prepared. So that way if there's programs that the community wants to see, that we can meet that need, we can include those in the seasonal brochures. So the town will accept any individual to a focus group at any time. So in other words, there's no term limit. I think one thing that's happened over time, especially for the PROSAR group, since, again, it is an advisory group, it's not a decision-making board, is we were in a loop of, people coming on and serving their term and then moving off. I'm not sure there's really a reason why a resident, if they have an interest to stay on, I'll say the rec programming side, they can stay on for 2, 3, 4, as long as they really want, as long as they're providing input. I think that's the one caveat to it that we'll kind of make sure they adhere to is that, they're not just showing up for a meeting, but they're actually providing their input. And I think what we'll hopefully gain from this is that input. Because as we were having our PROSAR meetings, especially this past year, they were really becoming more information-based from me, where I was providing sort of a monthly report or a bi-monthly report on activities and things that were going on and then the next step. So I'm hopeful that, with a group of 4 to 5 people in a specific area that they have an interest in, that discussion or conversation will sort of be enhanced. Obviously, if we grow outside of 4 or 5 people, so if we put out the call for participants on these groups, and we end up with 7 or 8 people, that's fine. We can make that work. The more input that we receive, obviously, makes us better. So, there's no limit as to the number of people that we would want to have or have to have on this group. Again, just from a general consensus, 4 to 5 people is an ideal group size for us. I have shared this topic with our current PROSAR members. There was only 5 of them, so we only have 5 individuals who are members right now. We have 3 very active members who have been around for a few years, and those 3 individuals have reached back to me, and all 3 of them have shared an interest that they'd like to continue. And actually, all 3 of them shared a different focus area that they'd like to participate in. So it kind of goes to what I'm suggesting, that there's that interest already, maybe in specific areas. So each one of those members has already mentioned, one would like to be on the rec side, one would like to be on the park side, one would like to be on the so we already have what I'll say is sort of a start to that. So that's what I have for you. Questions?
I couldn't be more proud.
Well, since Councilwoman Wright and myself kind of got an audition on this one from Chris, we were like, yeah, it seems like a good idea. I guess, John and Jenny, this is your first time actually seeing and hearing this idea?
I have no question. I mean, truthfully, ideally what will happen is we have 3 committees, and if we could get, I'll say 5 people in each one, that's a board of 15 people. Where currently we're drawing 4 or 5. So thinking realistically, we'll actually end up with more participation by going with this. So I think we're gonna get more value out of it.
That's what I think as well. I think it increases the community participation, and I know the community has been very interested in different things happening in the town. So this allows increased community participation, but it also allows them to go deeper into the areas that they're focused in, which, like you said, will make those conversations much more, they'd be more enriched.
I really think the one area that's gonna have the best benefit is gonna be the seniors. It just provides an opportunity for people, if they do have that interest, it provides that specific forum for it.
Why am I glad you said that, because I want to come back to that in a second. We're going to get ahead of this, John. Jenny, do you have any questions or
No.
comments on this?
I think it's a good idea. Thank you so much for opening your doors and looking into that and have our community, interact with us. This is very, very important. We want to build a relationship.
More community input that you have, the town benefits is all, in my opinion, so I think what you're doing is great.
So, I just have a couple, I guess, comments, real questions. Kyle, I don't expect you to give an answer on this today, but it's an advisory board, it's not legislative. To me, that means we have a lot more latitude on what we can do. We couldn't come in to say, hey, let's change the planning board, do all this stuff. That's a little bit. But on that same note, I wonder if we should, with Needs help research, like, did the town board ever do a resolution to either set up PROSAR and or approve the bylaws? Because the current, it's a goofy, I call it setup right now with 2-year terms, term limits, or 3-year, whatever it is, 9 numbers. It's very different from all of our other citizen boards. So I don't know the genesis of how it came to that, but I wonder if, Kyle, if we researched and saw how it started, maybe we can just kind of continue on with that with some like board resolution in the future to basically, not a lot of heavy lift, but change it to this. If we did something as a board 10, 20, 30 years ago. I don't.
Yeah, I agree with that approach, I work with you on that.
Yeah, thank you. And then the last thing is that I have to chuckle when 55 plus. I'm not going to ask people's age on this dais, but I do not envy Daphne and you, Chris, on that, because the interest of that population runs the gamut. And I don't know how, it's got to be so challenging, because some of those people, I see them in the rec center, they just want to lift weights and run marathons and do stuff that 20-year-olds want to do. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I know when we're talking, doing Tuesday talk with seniors, we got to have more knitting classes, we need to have more bingo, and those are valuable. But you're trying, I don't know, oh my God, I know there's like 8,000 people over 70. That's a challenge. I don't know how you do it.
To be honest with you, I don't think it's much different than what we already do across the board anyways. There are so many different needs and interests and everything else that goes into it. That just happens to be in one specific category. So as we've gone through programming, assessments and needs and discussions, usually we try to select programs that we think are of an interest, and that's where this group will actually provide more of that info. So as we provide the programs, the participants are the ones that decide if that's for them or not. Whether it's got 55 plus at the beginning of it, or it's just an adult program, or it's just a community event. So I don't think it's that much different than what we do with everything else. It's just specific to that one area. It's similar to fitness, I'm trying to decide what fitness classes do you teach? Do you teach, is spin still in, or is spin not? Is it Zumba, or is it?
Because, as the analogy I'll use, kind of, this isn't like a deep restricted community where you have to live there and be 55. If you have a knitting class, a 27-year-old can go to that
Absolutely.
class,
Yeah.
right?
We have a 55 plus talk coming up here, I think it's next month. Dan Mason from Red Wings is coming in. My guess is we're gonna have people that are coming to that talk that are not 55.
Sure. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.